Hello again, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Elegant Dev Show. I am your host, the Elegant Dev, and today we'll be discussing how to lead during a crisis. And I think this actually applies beyond the current emergency circumstances. More specifically, we'll talk about 5 things every leader simply must do in a high-pressure, critical situation. Now, I won't pretend to be an expert here, I'm just sharing my thoughts and opinions. But before we get into the video, if you're interested in more content like this, feel free to check out the rest of my channel. Also, subscribe if you haven't already, and make sure to hit the notification bell if you want YouTube to let you know when I release the next one. Okay, so without further ado, here's number 1. Gain a complete understanding of the situation. While this may sound obvious, it's a vital step in crisis resolution, because trying to solve a problem without first fully understanding it is basically a recipe for disaster. Get your facts first, then you can distort them as you please. Mark Twain. Now, I'm all for the maximum reasonable levels of honesty and transparency in every situation. But whether that's also the case for you as a leader, or you subscribe to Mr. Twain's ideas about it, it's still your responsibility to get all the facts, seek out all the details, and guide your team through the hard times, which isn't really something you can do blindly. You can think of it as the difference between turning on the lights if you get up during the night or leaving them off. If you turn them on, you will see the Lego blocks scattered on the floor, and if you don't, well then, let's just say you're in for a quick and painful realization of the mistake you've just made. Moving on to point number 2, be transparent. I do believe you should try to be completely transparent both with your team and your boss. At the very least, in the context of a crisis, a leader simply must try to be as honest and transparent about the situation as possible. This allows the people around them to have a clear perspective about the gravity of said situation as well as possible outcomes. And balance is actually key here, if I may misquote Thanos. One should be very careful not to present a biased view. I strongly believe that both extreme pessimism and undue optimism are quite detrimental to actually solving the problem. Instead, you should try to stay objective and keep your communication as clear and precise as possible. But we come now to number 3, buckle down and do the actual work to resolve the crisis. Now, this one is fairly self-explanatory, but we will get into why it actually matters. One thing I've noticed is that quite a few leaders simply refuse to do the actual work. And I do believe that you can't lay claim to that title if you don't put the same amount of effort as others on your team. Actually, ignore that. You as the leader should be doing more than anyone else on your team, especially when hits the fan. Because at the end of the day, you set the bar. And in a crisis, you're the one who simply must raise it, both for yourself and everyone else. Number 4 is simple. Try to remain calm. You've probably noticed by this point in your life, but adding panic to a stressful situation will only ever make it worse. A leader must keep their cool during a crisis, however difficult, disappointing, or enraging it might be. I do believe that, as a rule, negative emotions are misplaced in the professional context, especially during a crisis. For example, one of the absolute worst things you could do is lash out at your team. That's just an overall bad idea. Now granted, you might be under a lot of pressure, but mistreating those who rely on you for guidance, even if they bear some of the responsibility for the problem, is a race to the bottom scenario. It only ever leads to resentment in the long run. On the other hand, keeping your cool will help your team do the same, and likewise, losing it will just erode everyone's confidence. So be the calm at the center of the storm. So here comes number 5. And I've had to say this so many times in my career, but here I am saying it yet again. Don't play the blame game. Nevertheless, if you decide to do it, blame no one but yourself. On that note, whether or not you're the leader, do your best to take ownership of the current situation. So you've made a mistake, it happens. But make sure you learn from it and never repeat it. And that's doubly true if you are the leader. Everything is your responsibility. Leaders must own everything in their world. There is no one else to blame. Jocko Willink. And I'm sorry about that, but responsibility is the only thing you can't ever delegate. And because we all love bonus content, here's number 6. Try empathy. From my perspective, none of the steps we've actually discussed here make any sense without this one. At the very least, being able to empathize with your team and managers will provide an advantage to you as an individual. But that's just such a small part of the equation, isn't it? To handle yourself, use your head. To handle others, use your heart. Eleanor Roosevelt. The best leaders I've had the pleasure to work with were all deeply empathetic. They could glimpse other people's point of view to such an extent that they always knew what to say and how to act, to inspire and motivate those around them. So next time you're dealing with a crisis, stop for a minute and try empathy. But with that said, this will be all for this episode of the Elegant Dev Show, ladies and gentlemen. Before we end the video, let me know, do you agree with this list? And what's the one most important thing a leader must do during a crisis? Now, I would love to know that, so please share your thoughts and opinions in a comment down below. Now, finally, if you like this video, feel free to smash the like button. It does help out quite a bit. Thank you all for watching, and remember, stay elegant, exceptional, and extremely professional. I will see you next time.